In the session earlier on, we were talking about, or you particularly brought up the idea of imposing models and paradigms of governance onto other states and situations, and how this doesn't always work. I was wondering if you could just expand on that a little bit more, please.
Well, if you look at the last 50 years of North-South cooperation, if you like, there are ideas that scientific communities and aid agencies and banks, development banks, try to promote to developing countries. And these include ideas like decentralization, integrated water resource management, environment impact assessment. And these are all very good ideas in theory. When they come into the developing country context, very often they don't work very well. So I'll give you a very clear example. One of my students is a Ghanaian, and he's looking at how integrated water resource management works in Ghana. And one of the key issues that he comes up with is that Ghanaian bureaucracies are fairly hierarchical, but integrated water resource management calls for people to talk across sectors to different people in society, civil society, etc. But the governance framework within which the bureaucrats function is highly hierarchical. And so these two things don't go very well together. So it ends up being an idea that is imported in but never really actually implemented. But on the other hand, there are other issues like environmental impact assessments are quite expensive to implement in a developing country. So I think if you were to look at the assessments in developing countries, you probably conclude that they always do it in a fairly weak manner. But perhaps we should actually design an environmental impact assessment that a poor country can actually implement. So instead of asking them to do something really complex and difficult and expensive, to try and find a simpler mechanism to implement, which is affordable and doable given the resources that they have.
That's lovely. Thanks. Also, I wanted to ask you about Copenhagen. You're heading there next week. Could you just give us some idea about how you feel things are moving towards the actual event?
Well, I have a very optimistic view. I know that in the last few weeks there has been a lot of pressure put by certain governments to ensure that the expectations for Copenhagen are toned down. But my feeling is that these expectations, even though they are toned down, may make it in fact easier for negotiators to try and work out a deal. Because then they don't have press reporters all the time saying to them, well, what's coming out, what's coming out. So I'm hoping that anyway, at the end of the next 2 weeks, we have some kind of a deal, some kind of a legally binding deal that may have to be worked out more in detail subsequently, but at least there's clear guiding principles in it and clear targets. And I think if that does not happen, then we've lost a lot of time in the process, and expectations built up so much in the pre-Copenhagen period that I think a lot of countries will lose heart, momentum will be lost, and so I'm still hoping that something will come out.
Oh, that's lovely. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks.